It's Here First from IPR. I'm Megan McKinney. In today's episode, the latest on the shooting in Iowa City yesterday. And later in the episode, Legislative Monday with IPR's Katerina Sosnarek. It's Monday, April 20th. Five people were shot in downtown Iowa City early yesterday morning. IPR's James Kelly reports police are still investigating.
The Iowa City Police Department says officers responded to a large fight near the University of Iowa campus just before 2 a.m. Sunday morning. When they arrived, they heard gunfire. Videos shared online show people running away from the scene. The victims were taken to nearby hospitals with one in critical condition. 3 of those injured are students at the University of Iowa. UI President Barbara Wilson says the university is in close communication with law enforcement and she's thinking of the students and their families. Governor Kim Reynolds called it a senseless act of violence that has devastated the university community and the state. Police have not made any arrests and are asking for the public's help in identifying several people of interest. I'm James Kelly, IPR News.
Deportations in Iowa have jumped since President Trump started his second term. Numbers uncovered by the Deportation Data Project show that more than 1,600 people were deported from January 2025 through early March of this year. That's 3 times more than when President Biden was in office. Elena Casillas-Hoffman of the Iowa Migrant Movement for Justice says it's been a challenging time for immigrants.
Families are getting ripped apart. Individuals are finding that they have little to no other resources to fight their cases. Potentially individuals had a status and lost that status, not by anything that they did, but because the government pulled that out from underneath them.
The data also shows there was more than 1,500 immigration arrests in Iowa last year. That's more than 5 times the previous year. Casillas-Hoffman says the true numbers are likely higher. That's because the federal government has not released complete information on arrests and deportations. Iowa's population growth has slowed. That's according to a new report from Iowa-based nonpartisan group Common Sense Institute. It found the slow pace of that growth is a drag on the state's economic outlook. Ben Murray is Iowa Director of Policy and Research for the Common Sense Institute.
We have a continuation of some of the demographic struggles that Iowa has been dealing with for decades. So more people are leaving Iowa than coming in. We have falling birth rates and rising rates of death, which makes sense with our aging population.
Iowa's birth rate last year was 71% below the average birth rate between 1991 and 2019. Murray also says Iowa graduates of the state's public universities aren't staying in the state either because there's not enough jobs for them. The report says a decline in immigration is also impacting Iowa's population growth. The Iowa Supreme Court has sided with the city of Davenport in a case that challenged whether the state auditor can access records from closed meetings. IPR's Grant Gerlach has more details.
A few years ago, the Davenport City Council approved payments to 3 former employees to settle their claims of harassment by city officials. The state auditor opened an investigation into the timing. The payments were allegedly approved in closed session before city elections, but were not announced publicly until after the elections. The auditor demanded records of the council's closed meetings, but the Supreme Court has now ruled in favor of the city. The justices say the records do not have to be shared because they are covered by attorney-client privilege. Auditor Rob Sand says he respects the ruling, but in a statement he said state law allows a city to hide payments from taxpayers by keeping an attorney in the room. I'm Grant Gerlach, IPR News.
You're listening to Here First from IPR. In just a moment, the latest on the Iowa legislature with IPR's Katerina Sosnarek. Stay with us. It's Here First from IPR News. I'm Megan McKinney. It's a Legislative Monday as we enter the 15th week of the session. IPR's Katerina Sosnarek joins us this morning with the latest. Good morning.
Good morning, Megan.
House Republicans have an updated property tax plan that they hope will set the stage for a compromise on a final bill. What are the chances of that?
There probably will be a compromise eventually because Republican leaders really want to pass a property tax bill this session. But it's just not clear how much this plan from the House will resemble the final compromise. House Speaker Pat Grassley says that he's taken some components from the Senate and governor's proposals and combined them with some House GOP priorities, along with changing some of their own initial ideas. He says it's a good faith effort to get them closer to an agreement.
What do we know about how the governor and Senate feel about this plan?
We know that Governor Kim Reynolds agrees with the House on capping city and county revenue growth at 2% each year. Other than that, she says the updated plan from the House will help give momentum to negotiations. And then the chair of the Senate's Tax Committee says there is momentum behind his property tax bill that passed the Senate with bipartisan support a couple weeks ago. Senator Dan Dawson says he's looking forward to seeing a bill pass the Iowa House and to continuing discussions on property taxes. The new House plan doesn't include the Senate's major proposals on eliminating the rollback system and starting automatic increases to the gas tax.
Republicans are disagreeing on something else, too, a bill related to verifying immigration status of certain public employees. What's the dispute?
The Senate passed a bill requiring schools and the state's education licensing board to verify that school staff are authorized to work in the U.S. The House added a wider-ranging bill proposed by the governor to that legislation. This would make permanent Reynolds' executive order requiring state agencies and boards to ensure new hires and license applicants are authorized to work in the U.S. And it would make it harder for immigrants without legal status to be released on bail when they're charged with a crime. So the two chambers sent the bill back and forth, and they each insisted on keeping their own version. So this bill has been sent to a conference committee, which is pretty rare. And it means that this week, a few senators and a few representatives will have a public meeting to try to reach an agreement on that legislation.
The House has advanced a bill that would make it harder for Iowans to get medication abortions. What would this bill restrict?
Well, supporters of the bill say they're trying to crack down on mail-order abortion pills. There are clinics and organizations outside of Iowa that will mail abortion medications to Iowans. But the bill says that abortion-inducing drugs can only be provided directly to the woman prescribed the drug while in a hospital, medical office, pharmacy, or clinic. And if licensed healthcare providers in Iowa violate that, they'd be subject to discipline by their licensing board. If someone outside the state violates that, they could be subject to a lawsuit by the person who got the abortion or their personal representative. It's hard to say how effective that would be at stopping mail-order abortion pills because providers are often sending them from states that have laws protecting them from lawsuits. But this bill is now eligible for debate by the full House.
Property rights are a concern from some Iowans with a bill the Senate passed related to extracting hydrogen from the ground. What's in this bill?
The bill would put a state tax on oil and gas extracted in Iowa, including hydrogen. It would also allow the Department of Natural Resources director to approve hydrogen extraction if at least 25% of the landowners on a site agreed to have a company drill for hydrogen. All of the landowners on the site would be compensated. Supporters say this offers more protection than current law, but it's raised concerns from some opponents of eminent domain who say it would allow for the theft of mineral rights from landowners who don't agree to have hydrogen extracted from deep underground. Others said that this doesn't infringe on property rights at all, and it passed the Senate with the support of many lawmakers who oppose the use of eminent domain for carbon pipelines.
Tomorrow is the last day lawmakers receive expense payments, but the session will not be ending tomorrow. What does that mean for lawmakers?
It just means that they won't get reimbursed for food and lodging in Des Moines while the legislature is still in session. And as you mentioned, the session isn't ending tomorrow, even though it's the target end date. Lawmakers haven't passed a state budget yet, and they haven't passed a property tax bill, so there's still quite a bit of work for them to do, and the timing of all that depends on when Republican leaders can agree on these major bills.
And when or if they do, we'll hear about it on Legislative Monday. Thank you, Katerina.
Thanks, Megan.
And thank you for taking the time to be informed on a Monday morning. Hope you had a good weekend and have a great day.